Hey guys, this is Comic Uno and Comic Frontline, and today I'm doing Comic Uno episode 169. So yes, I am doing it about a day early because I actually read my comics pretty quickly this week because I didn't have that much, kind of a lighter week for me, and that was 17 comics. So let's get started. We go worst pick of the week to best pick of the week. What was worst pick of the week? There's actually a lot of great comics this week, so there wasn't anything really horrible, but yeah, this is probably definitely my worst pick of the week and the one I enjoyed the least, and that was Mother Panic issue 1, the new Young Animals book, which honestly I haven't been liking any of the Young Animals books besides Cape Carson. That one I actually did enjoy, but with Mother Panic it had a really cool concept with privileged girl, kind of very Batman-esque. We see a lot of psychological issues that her mother has and I guess her family has in general, and that's a big part of her character. And then she becomes this vigilante. So really cool concept, not executed very well. A lot of these things are mentioned quickly and just not fleshed out as much as they could be in this first issue to hook the reader for the next. And I think a big problem with that too is the artwork. It's very dark, and for me it was hard to concentrate on the scenes. It felt very tinted and it just didn't need to be that gritty, again, in my opinion. So I gave this issue 2 stars, and that was number 17. Still the only Young Animal books I'm reading. Shade, I don't know, I'm still reading it, and Cape Carson, which I actually really enjoyed issue 1. So moving on to number 16, a book that just ended, which I didn't even know was ending, and has been delayed forever, and that was The Shield, issue 4. Not a bad issue. Like I said, there weren't a lot of bad issues besides, like I said, I didn't really enjoy Mother Panic, but this wasn't a bad issue. It was just kind of disappointing, because like I said, I didn't even know it was the final act or final part of this story. It was really delayed, so the actual, I guess, continuation of the story, my enjoyment of the story went away because, like, I read a lot of comics, so you kind of forget the story if it's been delayed for such a long time. The artwork is okay, too. I do like the art, but sometimes, you know, here the action could have been a little bit more entertaining here. It kind of feels stagnant, some of the action, but yeah. Overall, it was an okay story where we get to see the war is over. They're trying to make like this World War III, and they defeat the enemy by the end, and then you see maybe they didn't. And it's our main character trying to figure out what is my role as a person now that I have all my memories. So like I said, it wasn't bad. The artwork could have been a little better. It was kind of simplistic in some ways, and undetailed in some places where there didn't have a face, or like I said, some of the action could have been a little better, but it wasn't a bad story, and if there was a part 2 that came out, I would pick it up. But I was a little disappointed with the finale, because I do think this had a really interesting concept. So The Shield issue 4 gets 3 stars, and that was number 16. Moving on to number 15, which is Supergirl issue 3. It actually is a little higher than it usually is. I know kind of on my list it wasn't, but rating-wise it was. So Supergirl, I thought, improved a little bit because I feel like Supergirl herself acted a little bit in character. She cared a bit more about humanity here, especially once she went face-to-face with her father, Cyborg Superman. Which is the complaint, the Cyborg Superman story. And honestly, this whole Argo City thing, we've seen it a billion times, this story, so especially with Supergirl. So that's why I'm like, oh man, I've seen this story before. It was actually recently. It was like right before the New 52, they had a very similar story. So that is the reason I give it 3 stars. The artwork still don't really like kind of the triangular type shape of their faces and the kind of boxy looking artwork here. But like I said, overall, Supergirl issue 3 gets 3 stars. Now it's number 15, I believe. Let me check. Let's see. That was number 15. Moving on to number 14. This book is a little lower than usual, but like I said, there weren't a lot of bad comics. I'm sure if it was another week, it would be a little higher. So it is Glitterbomb issue 3, which kind of continues the same thing we've been seeing. I don't know if it really adds much to the story, which is why it's a little lower, but still an entertaining story where we see our main character, the monster really coming out, the monster within, and I don't know if she really knows much about it. And that's kind of the frustrating part as audience members, that it's not really mysterious. It's just like, oh my god, I want to know what happens because I want to enjoy this character more. I want to know more about this monster. So, but the character is interesting. Her supporting characters are interesting too, and her story in general is interesting. So, I gave it 3.5 stars. Not a bad issue, but like I said, it could have done some different stuff in this issue than we've seen in the previous issues already. Moving on to number 13, which is Action Comics issue 967, which we get to see a little bit more of Lex Luthor, learn more about his suit. The mother box has to do with this suit, which was interesting. And I like that this issue balanced between Lois, Clark, and Lex pretty well. I didn't really care about I think it was the characters related to Apocalypse. I didn't really care about that too much, but I thought it was interesting that Lex is destined to be the next Apocalypse. So that was kind of cool. I did enjoy that. But this felt like kind of a smaller piece to a bigger puzzle. You know, it didn't amaze me in any of the scenes, but I did like the movement of the issue. And again, I'm sure I'll appreciate this issue more as we get the bigger picture of the story. So Action Comics issue 967 gets 3.5 stars. Alright, so we are moving on to number 12, which is Red Hood and the Outlaws, issue 4. A book that I feel I've been pleasantly surprised by. I didn't expect to like this book as much as I have, and I wish in this issue, though, there was a little bit more from Artemis and Brainiac. Bizarro. I wish there was a little bit more from them. But I do like Jason, and I like how Lobdell is writing Jason, and finally going up against Black Mask, and Black Mask saying, hey, yeah, I knew you were Jason this whole time, let's fight, and utilizes Bizarro to fight his cause. So, but I would say the best part of the issue was definitely the opening where Jason tries to make a connection with Bizarro, and you see the softer side of Jason. I enjoyed that. Also, the artwork is really nice and fits very well for this book. I kind of like that it's more of this camera type artwork, so when it's focusing on one item, you see it blurry in the background, so I like that because it's very like camera work type artwork here. So yeah, overall though, I gave it 3.5 stars. Pretty good issue. I enjoyed it. Alright, so now we're moving on to number 11, a book that I think is really original and I've been enjoying a lot, and that is Alters, issue 2. So this has to do with a transgender character, and we get to learn a little bit more about her situation and her abilities a little bit more. I think that's a complaint of why it's a little lower. Honestly, I think the best part of this book is the transgender story and the family aspect of it, but then once it gets to the superhero stuff, it doesn't really feel original. I want a little bit more from that, and also just to learn more about her abilities. I would like that. But the transgender stuff, and again, the family dynamics works really well here, especially, you know, just the idea of relating, you know, transgender themes to superhero themes about identity. I think that's really cool, and they do it really well here. So I like the character a lot, and anytime our main character is on screen or on panel, that is where the story is at its best. But then when you go into the other alters, that's when I think the story kind of slows down a bit. So hopefully the world building could be a little stronger, but our main character is very likable, and that is really the reason I'm sticking around with the book. So Alters issue 2 gets 3.5 stars, and definitely a book worth reading because of the originality of the story. Alright, so moving on to number 10, which is Detective Comics, issue 944, which kind of has the same feel as Action Comics. You know, things happen in it, but kind of feels like a smaller piece to a bigger puzzle, where we learn a little bit more about these kind of random villains who we learn that they're actually victims or first victims of Batman. So, you know, things happened around Batman when he was fighting a villain, and they were affected by that. So we see Stephanie most of all affected by this character, or one of the characters, she throws up. They bring her out, and, you know, she's already upset. She has a lot going on. Tim just died, so she now gets encountered by one of the villains. So I think it's going to really pick up by the next issue for Stephanie's story, but this is a very well done setup issue to learn a little bit more about the villains. I'm not saying I love them, because I don't really like them that much, but I do like the potential of the story they bring, and I do like the screen time the other characters get. Like Cassandra has some nice moments, Batwoman, etc. They do have some good moments here, so that's why I gave it 3.5 stars. It was a pretty good issue, and I'm obviously looking forward to seeing where it goes. Alright, so now we are moving on to number 9, which is Superwoman, issue 4. So this is still kind of in the middle, but this issue was a little bit better than what we've been getting in the past with Superwoman. I like that we actually get to see Lana and Lois interact, weirdly enough. Lana is seeing Lois in like a vision type form. So, and also I really like Lupacino's artwork. I think this style fits a lot more, and it feels a little less crowded, but the story is still crowded. I think the weaker part of the story is definitely the Lena Luthor stuff. I'm not so interested in her story, but I do like Lana as a main character, even though the main story doesn't progress too much in this issue. It's still fun, especially the Lois and Lana interactions, and, you know, Lana's fear of dying pretty much is definitely interesting. So, Superwoman issue 4 gets 3.5 stars. Alright, so now we're moving on to number 8, a book I was pretty surprised by, because the beginning I'm like, I don't know how to feel about it, but then really picks up towards the end, and that is Violent Love, issue 1. So this is a new Image book, and the book starts out with this guy telling a story to this kid, and I'm like, you know, how is this going to work out? Are we always going to start out with this guy trying to tell this random story, and like, who is this girl? Is it too Bonnie and Clyde? That was my worry. I thought in the beginning it was very Bonnie and Clyde, but our main character, which hopefully I can find her name, I think her name is Daisy. She's a little bit more likable than Bonnie. She's a little bit more relatable too than Bonnie and Clyde, I feel. So I thought that, you know, differed the story there. And then you see, you know, she's going to college, and she kind of has a bad relationship with her dad, but then she wants to forgive her dad, and she sees him die. So that's really what puts her on this path of crime, and we don't meet her love interest yet, but I thought it was actually going to be a shared narrative. I thought it was going to be Daisy as a main character, and then whoever her love interest is, but it looks like it's going to be Daisy's story, which I also thought was very interesting. And my guess is that the kid that the story's being told to is probably the daughter of Daisy. That's my guess. I guess, and that's the obvious. I hope that's not it. Hopefully it's a little bit more of a twist than that, but I liked it. You know, it really picks up towards the end. You get a lot of heart towards the end, and you care for this character, which is important for an issue 1 like this. The artwork is not particularly my favorite style, but it does work for the grittiness of the book. Yeah. Overall, I gave Violent Love, issue 1, 3.5 stars, and it definitely gave me enough to pick up the next issue. Alright, so now we're moving on to number 7, a book I'm still so happy with, and that is Deathstroke, issue 6. I really enjoyed this issue. We get to see not just more with Rose, but also, I think it was Jericho we saw a little bit more of. Pretty sure it was Jericho. Let's see. I don't think it was Joey. I think it was Jericho. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. So it was Jericho. And we get to see a little bit more of him. I know that in Teen Titans he, you know, was depicted as an LGBT character from Marv Wolfman, but he said, oh, we don't want to really do that, but they do a really cool thing here with the New 52, making him an LGBT character. I thought that was a cool twist in the end, especially if you know the character and just old school Teen Titans. I thought that was cool. And it's still Rose figuring out her relationship with her dad, which has been a lot of fun to watch, and Slade still not being a good father. So I really like this issue. Again, it's cool to see the addition of Jericho in this book, and trying to make a relation. Oh no, it is Joey. Why am I saying it was Jericho? It was Joey. So it was cool to see that Joey and Rose were making a relationship with each other as brother and sister. So that was cool. It's just becoming more of a family dynamic book where, like I said, that's always where Deathstroke is at its best. So Deathstroke issue 6 for me gets 4 stars. So I put that as number 7. Still a great book. Moving on to number 6, which is Betty and Veronica, issue 2. I like this book. It was fun. I will say sometimes it's a little prolonged with their antics, but, you know, it's fun to see Betty and Veronica fight and fight for things they believe in and try their damn hardest to win. And then even in the end, you see a little bit of heart from Veronica where she says, hey, you're my friend, kind of, and I don't want you to be hurt, and we continue this, I'm gonna hurt you. So it was very Veronica the way it kind of folds out. And then, you know, it's fun where we see in the end that Veronica is trying to convince the town for this coffee shop by bringing in all these hipsters, and Betty's like, no, you brought in hipsters? So it's a cool book, and obviously the artwork's gorgeous. I don't know if I love this tinted look, though. That's the part I'm not sure if I enjoy, but overall, like I said, great artwork, and I mean, there's a lot of fun scenes, like when Betty's like telling Pops, like, no, we're gonna save this, you know, we're gonna save your establishment, and she like goes on the counters, and he says, you know, I don't usually allow customers to go on the counter, but okay. So that was a lot of fun, and you just get to see the personalities of Betty and Veronica really well here. I actually thought this was a better issue than the first issue. I thought you got to see a little bit more of their personality, and the dog was in it less. I didn't really like the dog breaking the fourth wall as much, so he was in it, but not as much. So Betty and Veronica issue 2 gets 4 stars, and that is number 6. Moving on to number 5, I think you guys are going to be a little surprised that it's a little lower than I even expected, but it is in my top 5, and that is Amazing Spider-Man Renew Your Vows, issue 1. I thought this was a really solid book, and of course I love the interactions between Annie, MJ, and Peter, and seeing where they're at. But I will say I kind of wish they explained the world a little bit more, especially if you didn't read the Secret Wars book. There's things that I feel like could have been explained, like why is Peter still a photographer? What is MJ's job? They kind of explained it in the backstory. And obviously there's a lot of parallels with Spider-Girl, which I don't know if I like or not, you know, because, hey, we're getting this book, why don't we have Spider-Girl, you know? And then maybe some of the stuff could be predictable, because if you've read Spider-Girl, but we'll have to see. But at the same time, like I said in my review, what makes this different is that obviously MJ and Peter are younger and they're working with Annie. So in the difference of Spider-Girl, Spider-Girl was a solo hero. Peter was retired, MJ was never a superhero. But a lot of the family stuff and I guess the lessons you see that Annie learns is very similar to Spider-Girl because they are pretty much the same characters. So that's interesting to kind of read as you go along with the book. Yeah, the family aspect is what I love the most about it. I like the idea that MJ, Peter, and Annie are fighting as a team because, again, that is what makes this book a bit different from Spider-Girl. But I wish the villains were a little bit stronger. I feel like they kind of randomly popped into the book. That was another reason why it's a little lower, this book. But overall, very solid issue, and of course I'm going to read more, and I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes. So I gave this 4 stars, and that was number 5. Moving on to number 4, which is a book I was so surprised with, and that is Invincible Iron Man issue 1. Now, I'm not saying this is a perfect issue. I still don't think this needed to be called Invincible Iron Man. I think it would have been a lot stronger if this was Riri's story, if this was called Ironheart. I don't think this needed to be an Iron Man title. But I will say I really liked Riri as a character. She's very likable, and I like that heart is this main theme, is that her parents obviously didn't have to teach her knowledge. It was about teaching her how to be a human being, teaching her to be a good person. And of course, yeah, the tragedy backstory of her stepdad dying and then her best friend dying. But you get to like them. That's the thing. You get to like these characters and they're ripped away. It's very much this Spider-Man effect. But you do get to see Riri and her mom being very close, which I thought was interesting. And I like that the mom knew she was trying to do the superhero stuff. And I hope we get to see more of that. And then the Tony AI thing I thought was cool too. So overall I liked the series a lot and definitely hooked me to read more. So Invincible Iron Man issue 1 gets 4 stars and that is number 4. Moving on to number 3, book I've been enjoying so much from DC, and that is Wonder Woman issue 10. I just love this issue so much, where we get to see Wonder Woman. She's just interacting with normal people. We get to see Barbara trying to translate with Steve and I think it was Etta Candy who was there. Let me see who it was. Pretty sure it's Etta. But yeah, so we get to see them all interacting with each other, and I enjoyed that. It's just them bonding, even though they didn't even speak the same language. It was so cool. And then we have these gunmen try to kill people in this open mall. And Wonder Woman's just so confused. She's like, but this is not a battleground. And she becomes Wonder Woman there. She saves the day, even though she did not know she had these abilities to do so. But she knew she had to save the innocent. And it was such a well done issue. Artwork is gorgeous, especially, I mean, these type of scenes, these action scenes where she's using her bracelets. Let me see if I can find it. And even the facial expressions are so well done in the show, the innocence of Diana. I mean, this is just such a gorgeous page right there. Very well done issue, and I can't wait to see more. I've just been loving Greg Rucka's run on Wonder Woman here. So I gave Wonder Woman issue 10 4.5 stars, and that was number 3. Moving on to number 2, I think this is the highest Amazing Spider-Man book has been in a while. And again, I'm talking about 616, not spider-related titles. But I gave it to Clone Conspiracy issue 2. I was really surprised by this book because I feel like it brought the themes of Spider-Man really well in this issue, where all of these people are coming back that Peter had obviously not killed himself, but because he was a hero, had died. And he feels guilt. He feels guilt about it. And now, finally, all his wrongs have been undone, which is interesting. And then we get the cliffhanger that in the future, Peter might be teaming up with the new you because of it. So what's going on there? But my favorite twist was when we find out the Gwen clone was actually Spider-Gwen, which I think, I mean, you could see it coming, but at the same time, it was such an interesting, cool twist. I love how the artwork was drawn there. I loved it. So it's cool that Gwen is being part of this story even more. I think that's important, especially Gwen Stacy. Actual 616 Gwen Stacy is becoming a very important role in this story. So I thought that was really cool. And yeah, the artwork's gorgeous for the book. I liked it a lot. So I was very surprised and happy with the Clone Conspiracy issue 2. So I gave that 4.5 stars, and that was number 2. Moving on to number 1 for me was Batgirl and the Birds of Prey issue 4. Another book I was pleasantly surprised with. I love what Batgirl and the Birds of Prey has been doing because it really shows the pre-New 52, New 52, and originality all at once, kind of doing its own thing. And here we actually get to see the reintroduction of Huntress's origins. That doesn't contradict the New 52 at all, but also makes pre-New 52 fans happy, really bringing back those you know, the mob origins, and then her being in Sicily for a little while and her religious origins. So really like that, and that's a big part of the story and the reason why it's pick of the week for me. But also makes Huntress a lot more likable because she is trusting Batgirl and Black Canary, making them her family, even though it happens a little quickly, I think. It's still worth it. And then the Oracle story really picks up here in the end, where we find that this new Oracle is just really obsessed with Barbara and Batgirl in general. So very excited to find out who this new Oracle is, hopefully soon. And that was a really good cliffhanger. My only little nitpick I had was probably still the villains. I didn't quite care about them. But still, the Oracle story continues very well. And this was such a well done Huntress story. And the artwork has improved a lot with this book too. So that is the reason Batgirl and the Birds of Prey is my pick of the week this week. Let me know in the comments below what was your worst pick of the week. What was your best pick of the week, and everything in between. This is Comic Of Course I'll Comic episode next week. So, Don't forget to follow me on Twitter. Don't forget to like my Facebook page. Also, description below, there are links for my comic book, Like Father, Like Daughter. And don't forget to like the Facebook page of Like Father, Like Daughter. I'll see you guys later.